Christopher Walken once locked himself in a remote cabin for weeks, avoiding all human contact. What he saw during that isolation he never fully explained, but the hallucinations changed him forever. This was just one of many times Walken completely lost himself preparing for roles. He starved himself eating only bananas and rice. He stole costumes from every movie set. He refused to drive, swim, or even use a phone. Behind the scary characters was a man living in constant fear. The truth about what really happened in that cabin reveals why one became Hollywood's strangest star. Christopher Walken was born as Ronald Walken on March 31, 1943 in Etoria, Queens. His family had only recently begun their life in America. His father Paul came from Germany and his mother Rosalie from Scotland. They struggled like many immigrant families after World War II, running a small bakery that brought in just enough to get by. But the bakery wasn't just about bread. It became the heart of their neighborhood. And young Ronald, standing behind the counter, soaked up the voices and rhythms of dozens of cultures. The way people spoke, the way they moved, it all stayed with him. Without realizing it, he was building the strange hypnotic delivery that would one day become his trademark. By the time he was 3, his mother had turned her sons into a performing act. She dressed them like the Marx Brothers and dragged them to auditions. Ronald was just a toddler when he started dancing on stage at the Majestic Theater in Brooklyn for $50 a week. 7. He was already a regular background kid at NBC's Rockefeller Center studios, earning a few dollars a day. Most people didn't notice the boys lingering behind famous stars like Dean Martin or Jerry Lewis, but Ronald watched everything. He paid attention to the way light hit actors' faces, the way directors snapped out instructions, the way the whole machine of showbiz worked with cold precision. None of it was glamorous, but he was learning quietly, methodically, like a ghost in the background. When he was 15, everything changed. His girlfriend showed him a magazine photo of Elvis Presley, and it hit him like lightning. He saw this strange godlike man and said, "I loved everything about him." From that day forward, he styled his hair like Elvis and never changed. Not once. Even now, his look is frozen in that moment. He began mimicking Elvis's voice too. Those slow, sliding pauses, that rhythm that felt more like music than talking. But it wasn't just Elvis shaping him. Back at the bakery, the performers and vaudevillians who passed through were also leaving pieces of their voices behind. All of it fused into something totally unique. That strange broken rhythm of speech people would later find impossible to imitate was already being formed before he ever had a line in a movie. At 10, he enrolled in Manhattan's professional children's school. It wasn't really a school in the usual sense. It was a training ground for young performers. Kids left after lunch to sing and dance and act in professional gigs. The place was full of future stars like Liza Minnelli and Elliot Gould, but it was ruthless. Teachers doubled as talent scouts and took cuts of your earnings. Outside of this strange world, things weren't easier. Ronald was mocked for his dance lessons, called names by classmates, and got into fights. It made him tough at odds with himself. A boy who could sing and tap dance but also throw a punch without warning. That contradiction never left him. By 14, he'd had enough of traditional school and dropped out completely to work full-time. His father was furious, a German baker who believed in steady work. Paul Walken couldn't accept that his son was gambling everything on a career that might never pay off. But Ronald was determined. He spent the rest of the 1950s appearing in over 100 television shows. Most of the time he was nothing more than background, but he was watching, learning, understanding every piece of the puzzle. At 16 in 1959 he landed a Broadway role in Best Foot Forward. That same year he got a job no one could believe. He became a lion tamer. He worked a summer in the circus with a lioness named Sheba. She wasn't dangerous. She sat and played like a dog, but it didn't matter. To 16-year-old it felt wild and unforgettable. Years later when people asked why he did it, he just said, "Who's going to turn that down?" In 1964, while performing as a dancer in a nightclub act, his boss Monique Van Vren decided to introduce him with a different name just for fun. Christopher, she called him for reasons even he couldn't explain. The name stuck forever. Ronald Walken disappeared that night. From then on it was Christopher. Walken, though close friends and family still call him Ronnie. From the time he was 3, dance had been part of his life. Not just ballet but tap, acrobatics, everything. His training wasn't just artistic. It was survival. It's what got him into Broadway chorus lines, including the musical JB in 1958, when he was just 15. And it's what stunned audiences years later when he danced in the movie Pennies from Heaven, and even in Fatboy Slim's Weapon of Choice music video. The dance was always there, always real. But not every experience in his early years was dazzling. One summer while working in a regional theater he watched another actor completely break down from stage fright during a performance. The moment seared into his mind. Walken later said, "An audience is the most dangerous thing in the world." The experience taught him to fear the stage, not because of the lights but because the people had paid and they were watching. Film sets felt safer. You weren't exposed to hundreds of silent judgments, just the crew, just the work. In 1963 he joined the off-Broadway revival of Best Foot Forward. Again, this time alongside a young Liza Minnelli. They were broke. Walken slept in theaters between shows. Minnelli sometimes slept on park benches. They were children chasing dreams with nowhere to go when the curtain came down, but they bonded through that poverty. Minnelli would later call him one of the most talented people she'd ever worked with. That same year, while touring in West Side Story, Walken met Georgian Thon in Chicago. She was struck by his intense energy and the two began a romance that led to marriage in 1969. Through every turn of his career, she remained by his side. His big break came in 1966 when he won the Clarence Derwent Award for playing Philip II of France in The Lion in Winter. He was 23, and the $500 prize felt like a fortune. But success had a strange twist. His pale skin, piercing eyes, and odd voice got him TYP cast as villains, lunatics, or misfits. He had studied dance, hoped to do musicals, but directors saw only the strange. He was frustrated, boxed in by a face that others found too unsettling for normal roles. He kept pushing, kept performing. By the end of the 1960s, he'd racked up over 20 off-Broadway roles, including one where he appeared fully nude on stage in a war play called The Unknown Soldier and his wife. Some people walked out. He didn't care. He was fearless, and that fearlessness got noticed. In 1968, Walken received a Tony nomination for The Rose Tattoo, but the praise didn't calm the storms inside him. That year, he attended more than 200 auditions. Most went nowhere. The rejections piled up. He considered quitting and going back to the bakery. It was a simple life, but it was safe. He nearly did it, but Georgian talked him out of it.